Hello and welcome to My Opinion Archive. In today's video I'm going to be talking about the Tarkin Doctrine, also known as the Doctrine of Terror or the Rule of Fear from the Star Wars universe. So the Tarkin Doctrine originally started as a message sent from Moff Wilhoff Tarkin to Emperor Palpatine, and in this message he detailed the concept of maintaining order and increasing security within the Galactic Empire, and it ended up becoming one of the most important documents regarding Imperial policy. Tarkin originally got the idea for this doctrine by evolving a concept he was introduced to when he was a commander in the Republic Outland Region Security Forces. He was introduced to a new weapon, a battle planetoid, and as he had been a security officer in the Outer Rim for a long time, he had seen the problems that come with an absent government. And what he also had experienced with the Galactic Senate was that it split the galaxy into thousands of sectors, with each senator claiming to represent trillions of citizens, and it led to a lot of chaos. He came to the conclusion that if you created a navy large enough to police the entire galaxy, it would be really expensive and could still be overcome by opponents making use of hit-and-run strikes and stateless strategies. So he saw this design for this planetoid and improved it with additional weapons powerful enough to seriously damage the planet. And he thought it would be the solution, that no world would dare harbor pirates or criminals or defy the authority of the government if their planet could be destroyed. Another experience Tarkin had that shaped this doctrine was his experience with pursuing pirates. Because what the pirates did was that they entered another sector where Tarkin didn't have jurisdiction. So at the time he couldn't continue pursuing them without possibly entering conflict with other people, other Moffs in the military. So now that you know how the Tarkin Doctrine came about, I'm going to tell you what it involves. And the complete concept that Tarkin sent to Emperor Palpatine called for three primary principles: territorial consolidation, rapid communication, and most infamously, the rule of fear. What he meant by territorial consolidation was a way to deal with cross-sector criminals and rebellious activities and the problem of jurisdictional conflicts. The Tarkin Doctrine called for the retooling of the sector armies areas to operate and creating what's known as oversectors, proposing that these sectors would be created to control unstable galactic hotspots and be assigned greater forces than usual in an attempt to root out rebellious activity before it could take hold. Each oversector would be capable of crossing traditional sector boundaries and would be controlled by a singular officer who would answer directly to Palpatine. Now I'm going to explain what Tarkin meant by rapid communication. In this part, the doctrine called for the cannibalization, so to speak, of the holonet and its restriction to the Imperial Navy, as well as the overall Imperial military, in order to deny communication to insurgents and more effectively coordinate sector groups. According to Tarkin, this was because the holonet allowed for face-to-face communication across thousands of light years, which was far too valuable for the public to just have free access to. And now for the final cornerstone of the doctrine, which was the concept of ruling through fear or force rather than through force itself, also most infamously known as the rule of fear. The idea behind this was that displays of power, mostly through the use of terror-inspiring superweapons, would prevent rebellion from happening. This would work by presenting the superweapons as seemingly invincible weapons of ultimate power, which would play upon the fearfulness and awe of the citizens of the Empire, to render all thoughts of assault against the Empire non-existent. Now I'm going to give you my thoughts on the doctrine, not necessarily in the context of the Star Wars universe. And before I continue, I just need to say that all that information I've given you up until this point is from legends, although as far as I'm aware, the doctrine also exists in canon. So my thoughts are as follows. I see the doctrine as a very smart short-term strategy, that if you can make enough fear, then people won't rebel for a while. But if you keep treating people badly, then ultimately I believe they will rise up, and then you'll have to use your force, and then you will either end up trying to avoid casualties or destroying resources, proving that whatever force you are trying to instill fear through is an illusion, or you will end up using too much force on small problems and destroying more people or resources you need, which will lead to your empire or whatever government you have using this strategy getting weaker and having more people rising up against it. Now I'm going to give you my thoughts on the individual parts of the doctrine, starting with territorial consolidation. I think this part of the doctrine is a good idea because it allows for enemy forces and criminals to be hunted in a coordinated way across different sectors, which you're going to have if you have a large space you're patrolling. And it's also have the benefit that you don't have to give over control or command of this mission of catching these people every time they cross a border. It's the same person who has the jurisdiction and can go after them and continue to go after them with whatever information they may have from previous encounters. My thoughts on rapid communication is that the idea in of itself is smart for a government like the Empire, but it's very problematic for their citizens, and it's going to decrease their loyalty since they more or less took over the equivalent of the internet. This was something people had been used to for a while, so it actually reduces their quality of life. If we say it was in a scenario where the internet was just invented, then I can see it being useful to keep it for military use for a while, to prevent enemies from becoming more coordinated and allowing your soldiers to be more coordinated. Lastly, I'm going to give you my thoughts on the rule through fear concept, which involved, of course, building of superweapons. I think this part is a waste of resources that could be used on making a more effective military, if that's the kind of way you're going to rule. You could create a military which would make the same kind of fear by being the most deadly force in the galaxy, instead of a bunch of superweapons. In the Empire's case, you could create more Star Destroyers, more advanced Star Destroyers, and more effective TIE fighters, with shields, for instance, like the TIE Defender. And you could have better soldiers, and make the Empire more attractive and something you want to be a part of. I know this isn't exactly what Emperor Palpatine would go for, but I still think the resource could be used to better the life quality of the citizens in the Outer Rim, so that being a citizen of the Empire means something good to people, more than just being a big military. You could improve the quality of life through jobs or through what do I know? Better healthcare. I don't know the healthcare in the Outer Rim. But the Outer Rim is notorious for being worse off than the core planets, so there's probably things you could improve. And this would make rebellion less likely to happen, if happening at all, because if the Empire helps you and better your life, why would you rebel against them? So these were my thoughts on the Tarkin Doctrine. If you have any thoughts of your own, please let me know. As always, this has been My Opinion Archive, and thank you for watching this video.